Today, we're diving into something big, a massive shift in global power. We're talking about the BRICS nations and what their rise really means for all of us. So let's just start with this idea. What if the world's major emerging powers just got fed up? Tired of a global system that they felt was kind of stacked against them. And what if they decided to just build their own club? Well, guess what? That is exactly what happened. And the result? It's a group called BRICS.
Okay, so to really understand why this club even exists in the first place, we've got to rewind a bit and look at the core problem. At the end of the day, this whole thing is a story about wanting a real seat at the global table.
The main idea behind BRICS, really, it boils down to one word: disgruntlement. You had these key developing nations looking around at this global system, right? The one built by the US and its allies way back after World War II. And they're thinking, hey, this doesn't match reality anymore. Their economies were booming, but their actual influence, it just wasn't keeping up. And if you want a perfect example, look no further than the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. I mean, check this out. The original BRICS countries, they represent over 40% of the entire world's population, but their voting rights in the IMF, a tiny 11%. And the craziest part, when they actually tried to change this, to reform the system, they got blocked. The message couldn't have been clearer. We're not just ignoring you, we're actively stopping you.
The name itself is kind of funny. It actually started as an acronym from an investment bank, just BRIC, coined way back in 2001. It was just a catchy way to talk about these fast-growing economies. But by 2009, it had morphed into something completely different. It became a formal political forum. Then in 2011, South Africa joined, and BRIC became BRICS, a full-blown bloc absolutely determined to build an alternative.
Okay, but let's be real. Complaining about the system, that's the easy part. Actually building a new one, that's a whole other ballgame. And yet, that's exactly what BRICS set out to do. They started constructing what you could almost call a parallel financial universe.
And their flagship project? It's called the New Development Bank, or NDB. It launched back in 2015, it's based in Shanghai, and its mission is simple. It's the BRICS answer to the World Bank, and it was created for one specific reason: to pour money into huge infrastructure projects all across the developing world. And hey, don't think this is just some symbolic gesture. The NDB is already a major player on the world stage. We're talking $40 billion, with a B, in financing approved for more than 120 projects. This is real money, building real things. It's tangible economic power, right there in action. But here's the real kicker, the part where the philosophy totally shifts. You see, when the IMF or the World Bank lends money, it usually comes with a lot of strings attached. Strict rules about how a country has to run its economy. Well, the NDB just flips that entire script. It offers financing with no policy conditionalities. And for so many developing nations, that kind of freedom, well, it's an absolute game changer. And they're not stopping with just lending. The bloc is also working on something called BRICS Pay. Now, the whole point here is to create an alternative to SWIFT. That's the system that handles pretty much all international bank transfers. The goal is to let member countries trade directly with each other using their own currencies and become a whole lot less dependent on the US dollar.
So, all of this ambition, it's definitely been turning some heads. And that brings us to the next chapter in the BRICS story. And honestly, it might be the most dramatic one yet: the recent and incredibly rapid expansion.
Just this year, in 2024, the club got a lot bigger. We're talking Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates all officially coming on board. And other heavy hitters like Saudi Arabia also accepted their invitations to join. So yeah, this isn't just a small addition to the roster, this is a major strategic realignment on the global map. And with these new members, the economic power of BRICS has just exploded. The expanded group now accounts for 36% of the entire world's GDP. Let me put that in perspective for you. That means BRICS is now officially larger than the G7, the club of the big established Western economies. That's a huge deal. But honestly, the economic numbers might not even be the biggest story. The real power might be in resources. The expanded BRICS now controls a staggering 72% of the world's rare earth minerals. And just so we're clear, these are the supercritical ingredients you need for, well, everything: your smartphone, electric cars, even the most advanced military tech. And you can see the strategic focus so clearly when you look at who they're inviting to the party. Take Argentina, for example. They're sitting on some of the world's biggest lithium reserves.
That's the key ingredient for the whole green energy transition. So by bringing these major resource holders into the fold, BRICS is basically positioning itself right at the center of the future global economy. It's a very smart play. But you know what they say, with great power comes, well, great complexity. The bigger this club gets, the harder it is for everyone to agree. And BRICS is facing a massive challenge, not from the outside, but from within. We're talking about the deep, deep rivalry between its two biggest members, India and China. And this gets to the absolute core of the problem, a fundamental disagreement over what BRICS should even be. On one side, you got India. They want what's called a multipolar world. They see BRICS as a tool to reform the current system, to give more of a voice to emerging nations. But then on the other side, you've got China and Russia. They seem to want a bipolar world, where BRICS is set up as a direct challenger to the US and the West. So one side wants to change the rules of the game, and the other wants to build a whole new game. And you can see this tension playing out in public, clear as day. At the recent summit in Kazan, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi came right out and said the group should not be seen as divisive. Now, that wasn't just a throwaway line. That was a clear, direct message aimed squarely at pushing back against China's much more confrontational, anti-Western approach. Okay, now it's true that right before that same summit, the two countries announced a deal to de-escalate their border dispute, which has been going on for years and has even turned violent. And look, that's a big deal tactically, but, and this is a big but, it doesn't just magically erase the deep underlying strategic competition between these two giants. That rivalry, it's still the single biggest threat to the bloc's unity, period. Which really brings us to the ultimate question about the future of all this, right? Can this incredibly powerful new bloc actually hold itself together? Or are these internal fractures just going to tear it apart from the inside? The path forward for this bloc is, well, it's like walking a geopolitical tightrope. We saw this perfectly with all the controversy around the UN Secretary General meeting with Vladimir Putin at the Kazan summit. People were asking, was that a betrayal of principles, or was it just necessary diplomacy? This is the kind of impossible balancing act that the rise of BRICS is forcing everyone to deal with now. So, in the end, we're left with this one massive question. Is BRICS truly the architects of a new, more balanced world order? Or is it really just a house divided against itself, one that's destined to collapse under the weight of its own contradictions? Honestly, the answer to that question is going to define the global balance of power for decades to come.